Patience. We're just supposed to wait. Apparently so. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. We know you have many choices to make every morning, and we always are grateful that you choose to spend some time with us. Apologies about the voice. It's certainly coming down with something, so we'll see how long we can go today, for sure. Again, thank you for being here. There's a gifting goal today. Please consider contributing to that. Tapping is clapping, of course. Sharing is caring. Please join our team. Please consider subscribing and do so at FactsStillMatter.site. You can find the link to that also in the link tree that's in my bio. And congratulations to Can Mom. Can Mom yesterday won our little contest we did for subscribers. Any active subscribers through, I guess it was yesterday morning, entered into a contest. And Can Mom was the winner. And Can Mom will be getting any item in the merch store that they like, and or a charitable donation at a minimum of $50 to go to a charity of their cause, gladly and proudly paid by me. Thank you very, very much. A few other things to mention. As I mentioned all week long, tomorrow we're going to do a live. It's going to be dedicated to talking about small businesses. You know, the lifeblood of America, overwhelming businesses, and the overwhelming number of businesses that are less than 75 employees in our country. That's that number, right? So the overwhelming majority of us work for small businesses, so to speak. We'll talk about that. I want to give opportunity for folks who have a small business to promote it. I want to talk about the importance of small business because, as we know, trickle-down economics doesn't work. Have you heard? So we'll talk about that, and plus give folks an opportunity to plug their business and talk about what it is that they do. As a small business owner myself, I think it's a really long overdue conversation. Again, thank you guys for being here. A lot to cover as always. And again, I apologize about the voice. I'll make it through. I'll power through, as they say. Okay. So, you know, I guess the big news that came down the pipe yesterday was this phone call between the twice impeached, four-time indicted sexually abusing fraud convicted felon and the KGB thug. And of course, Putin played him. Which again is what we're talking about. So the promise is made right out of the gate. The promise is made. The promise is not kept. We'll get into some of the specifics of that in just a minute. We know that the ceasefire has, for lack of a better term, blown up between Israel and the H group. More innocent civilians unalived at the hands of the Israeli government under Bibi Netanyahu's watch. We need to obviously continue to talk about this because in our right-wing spaces these days, of course, they're not going to talk about it. The volatility that we're seeing globally, obviously, is impacting the stock market. We've talked about that, not only from a tariffs perspective, but from just the general volatility. Like, they're looking at the madman behind the Resolute desk, and the stock market is responding in kind, as you would expect it to. It closed down another 260 points yesterday. So for the week, it's down total 91 points. For the month, it's down 3,046 points. And we're talking since Inauguration Day, it's down like 3,500 points, pushing 8%. So that's pretty significant. Gas prices spiked up a little bit yesterday. National average is, according to AAA and confirmed by Gas Buddy and also by the EIA, the EIA, $3.10. So it's up. And, you know, more of the same. I guess the expectation is that we were told we're going to get all this winning. Excuse me. And I haven't seen any. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the winning. I would really like some winning, please. Winning, please. Please, may I have some winning? I think it's going to be a while until we see some winning. You know, and we talked about a variety of these topics as it relates to the future of our democracy. And we're seeing more and more, you know, resistance, because we know the resistance is everywhere if you know where to look, right? Keep those things in mind as we're having these conversations about what it is that you're going to do. I know that there's town halls across the country. Democrats in Arizona, Ruben Gallego and Mark Kelly, having to hear from their voters and saying, what are you doing? Why are you not doing more? Why are you not standing up? So it's not just Republican town halls, and we're going to cover the Democrat town halls as well, right? Working on a couple of other things in the future that may come as special guests. Like, I'm working on trying to get some relatively big names in our political space on our show. so that we can talk about that too. Because listen, we the people are this is on us. I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but we can't depend on our elected officials, right? It is on us to make sure that we're moving the needle, to make sure that we're the ones that are pushing the gas pedal to say we want to take our country forward, not backward. We want to progress as a society. Remember, conservatives and progressives, right? People who want to keep things as they are or even go back in time, and then progressives, people who want to push our country forward from a civil rights perspective, from a human rights perspective, healthcare, education, you know the drill. It was a great conversation we had with Felice yesterday. I may not make it with my voice. We'll see how it goes. I'll go as long as we can. Hey, now. We had a great conversation about a lot of those topics with Felice yesterday, and we'll continue to talk about them. I guess the news of the day, I think, was this summit that was called for. I'm not even gonna call it a summit. It was a phone call. Let's call it what it was. And the Trump administration claimed to have had success. Well, the reporting would disagree. So the story was that Trump and Putin agreed to an immediate ceasefire, but only for energy infrastructure and some humanitarian aid. I did take some honey. Thank you. Thank you, honey. I did. Well, that's not happening. So Putin had asked for the end of foreign aid being sent. Basically, of course, that's what he wants. So this brash negotiator, the art of the deal, we know that the carving up of Ukraine is exactly what Putin wants, and that's likely what Trump will push on. Volodymyr Zelensky has come out and expecting to have a phone call today with Trump just to kind of discuss what happened. We know that there were attacks overnight, so we can't expect Vladimir Putin to honor a ceasefire since he's never honored one before. So we'll obviously keep our eyes on that because that was a fundamental element of the Trump campaign, was ending that conflict. And I don't think we're any closer. The Ukrainians have agreed to a ceasefire, so the ball is in Putin's lap right now. And I think what you're seeing is Putin dog walking Trump once again. And he'll brag and he'll say that he's in charge. We know who's in charge, right? So that's not going to happen. And I think the worst part about it is that there is an opportunity there to show that you being the twice impeached, 4-time indicted, sexually abusing fraudster, convicted felon, has some foreign policy chops, or someone. It was a bestie call, exactly. It was a bestie. Girl, what are you doing? How was the Kremlin downtown last night? Oh, girl, it was great. How was Mar-a-Lago? Oh, girl, it was great. Yeah, that's exactly how it went down. Anyway, we'll keep our eyes on that. Similarly, they bragged about the ceasefire being, initiated and then, enacted between the Israeli government and the H group. And we know that that's been violated by Israel. More attacks, more innocent civilians lost their lives. We know that the Arab states are kind of pushing back now and trying to negotiate through this without the aid of the United States, based on the promises that Trump made to turn Gaza into the Middle Eastern Riviera. So all this winning, right? All this winning. And, meanwhile, domestically, we've got people starving. Meanwhile, domestically, we've got education under assault, as we discussed yesterday. States, turning away funding for Head Start programs and things like that. We know that the GOP budget is going to go after Medicaid, Medicare. I think I talked about this before, but in Louisiana, again, guys, I apologize for the voice. In Louisiana, Mike Johnson's state, 40% of his voters are on Medicaid. 40%, right? So notice that Mike Johnson's not doing any town halls. Do we think that's a coincidence? Yes, I realize he's the Speaker of the House and he's second in line to the presidency, but he's still an elected official and he still represents citizens in the state of Louisiana. Those citizens, and they'll probably vote for him anyway. It doesn't really matter because they're in the cult. But how do you face your voters when 40% of your state benefits from Medicaid? Like, what do you do? How do you stand up? How do you stand there? Oh, again, we've seen it all across the country, right? Exactly. Louisiana's been struggling for a long time. They always rank near the bottom in education, infant mortality, maternal mortality, graduation rates. Their citizenry lives below the poverty line. This is one of those this is one of those examples of, your elected officials are supposed to represent you. Now, you can't, I don't want to say this, as having served in state government, when you represent your town, your neighborhood, your county, your district, whatever that might be, you're never going to make everybody in your district happy. That's obvious, depending on your vote. So, but you vote with your constituents in mind. That's supposed to be the game, right? You vote with your constituency in mind, and then you deal with the rest. And then you just be honest. You just tell them, listen, I know that the majority of you agree with this, so I'm going to vote for this, which means that some of you are going to be disappointed. Here's why I did it. I know that seems so simplistic, but wouldn't it be great if politics worked like that? And I don't think there's a reason to say that we shouldn't demand that. Have your elected officials look you in the eye and say, listen, I get it. You didn't, there's a lot of you that did not want me to vote for this or vote against this. But the majority from the polling we've done say that you do want me to vote for this or against this. So that's why I did it. I don't think that's a lot to ask. But anyway, there's a gifting goal today, guys. Please consider participating in that. And don't forget to join our team. Okay. Just want to kind of look back again. Thank you to MBW Bobby, another MBW, to Jen, to Izzy, and to that which Sarah for your subscriptions. I really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining our team. Okay. We want to restore the department. Yeah, I know you do. So I want to talk about a couple of things here, specifically as these arrests and these deportations are happening. And it's really, really important to remind folks of a few things. The illegal deportations, as we've deemed now that they are in fact illegal. In fact, I have an update on the timeline about those flights over the weekend because of the bold-faced lies that came out of the Trump administration and Caroline Levitt, the lies that she told about the timing. We'll address that in just a minute. But it's bad enough that these illegal deportations are happening, but people are being held in prisons in foreign countries. American citizens, you'll notice that no one can answer. Even Tom Homan, we played the sound from that yesterday. Tom Homan, who is the border czar, right? He doesn't even know everybody that's on those flights. We know the situation with Mahmoud Halil. We know the situation there. We know the situation with various other people, prominent names who've surfaced based on the fact that they're either green card holders or they're here on visas. Every single time we discuss this, it's just another example of violation of constitutional rights. So these are things that we sort of need to keep an eye on, obviously, because we know that they're not going to talk about it or cover it the way they should on mainstream media. So I want to play a little bit of sound here because this kind of speaks to the hypocrisy that we're dealing with, right? About how who's under threat from the Trump administration, because they would like to tell you it's only people who are violating the law. It's only people who are criminals. So this is what Caroline had to say.
We want to restore the Department of Justice to an institution that focuses on fighting law and order and crime and putting real criminals behind bars, not targeting Americans because of their religion or their political speech. We saw that under the previous administration, and it's unacceptable to this president. And just to follow.
Really? That's interesting. That's really, really interesting because I want to read to you something from Truth Social that I'm sure you guys have heard because I've read it before. So in response to what Caroline just said about how we don't want to target people for their speech, on March 4th at 7:30 a.m. on Truth Social, Donald Trump wrote, "All federal funding will stop for any college, school, or university that allows illegal protests. Agitators will be imprisoned or permanently sent back to the country from which they came. American students will be permanently expelled or, depending on their crime, arrested. No masks. Thank you for attention to this matter." So, I'm sorry, Caroline, what did you say again? Let me just make sure I heard that right.
We want to restore the Department of Justice to an institution that focuses on fighting law and order and crime and putting real criminals behind bars, not targeting Americans because of their religion or their political speech. We saw that under the previous administration, and it's unacceptable to this president. And just to follow.
All federal funding will stop for any college, school, or university that allows illegal protests. Agitators will be imprisoned or permanently sent back to their country from which they came. American students will be permanently expelled or, depending on the crime, arrested. No masks. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So which is it? Which is it? Which is it? Are we only going after criminals or are we going after people who participate in a legal protest? Whatever the fuck that is. Okay, that's really clear. That's really, really clear, right? And again, the the most serious element of this whole horrible approach to immigration, if you want to call it that, is illegally detaining people without any due process, without any semblance of due process. You're right; they're going after free speech. So Caroline Leavitt says we're only going after criminals. Donald Trump says we don't give a fuck if you participate in an illegal protest. Again, tell me what, excuse me, tell me what an illegal protest is. I don't know what that would look like. What is an illegal protest? If the administration that's currently in office or the Department of Justice says that if I went to a rally in my state capital in Montpelier, right, and I was very direct in representing my rights to peacefully assemble and petition the government and my free speech, and they didn't like what I had to say, would I be wrapped up or rounded up and put in jail? Right? Exactly. You're right, Purple Haze. You're right. My name is January 6th. That was an illegal protest. That was certainly an illegal protest. Up until they invaded the Capitol, they were within their rights. Up until they were insurrectionist traitors, they were following the law. There was no issues at that point, right? When they entered the Capitol illegally and they were insurrectionist traitors, that became illegal and they were arrested, right? So if I go to a college campus or undergrads are petitioning or airing their grievances and they're participating in the fundamental principle of the founding of our country, which was peacefully protesting, and the government doesn't like it, they can just be arrested and or deported without due process. These are just blatant violations of our constitutional rights. And I wish more people, we talked about this a little bit yesterday about when, if ever, are we ever going to see courage in politics? And I think that would be something that the party who claims freedom, right? The conservatives who stand and say, America is the greatest country on earth because of our freedom. Okay, if you truly believe that, then where the fuck are you? Why are you not pushing back? Why are you not standing there? Why are you not grabbing the bully pulpit? Why are you not grabbing some airtime somewhere and saying, this is ridiculous? We can't just be locking people up because they protest. Now, and they will continue to try to gaslight you. They will say that they're uttering or reiterating violent rhetoric. That's their interpretation. That doesn't mean it's a crime, and it certainly doesn't warrant being arrested. It certainly doesn't warrant being expelled from colleges. It certainly doesn't warrant, being sent back to your country. I was talking to my daughter about this last night, right? I said, so if you're, say for example, when you're in college, after dad has sold body parts to pay for it, and you're protesting based on what Trump has said here, you could be arrested. And she's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm like, okay, that's my girl. But that's the reality when parents send their kids off to school or whatever it might be, or you're going to participate in an event. We know that the Veterans March was over this past weekend. There's going to be more events. There's going to be town halls, all these kinds of things. If they don't like it, they're just going to arrest you. Where is the courage from the freedom-loving party? Where are they? I'd like to know, because I haven't seen it. So we're going to continue to watch that. It's a little bit disturbing when Caroline Leavitt, KK Caroline, when she's standing there telling the press corps that we're only going after criminals, when Tom Homan does the same thing, and yet the Trump echo chamber is basically saying, well, we don't give a fuck if they're criminals or not. We're just going to lock you up if you don't like you. They don't like radical left lunatics. They're going to impeach judges. Speaking of that, everybody, please keep tapping and sharing. I appreciate y'all very, very much. I'm sorry, guys. Excuse me. Okay. So one of the things that I think is really, really
were consulted by the Israeli
Caroline, that I was really kind of fascinated by when I heard John Roberts be very pointed in his response to the claims and the rhetoric that's been fueling the Trump administration for the past few days about locking up or impeaching federal judges. Very rarely, excuse me. Sorry, guys. Very rarely do you hear a Supreme Court justice respond to the day-to-day. Very rarely do you see that. So John Roberts has been one of those people. The Roberts Court is his legacy is going to be interesting, through the annals of history, because he was part of the movement that granted immunity to a president. He was part of the court, led the court that took away women's rights to their body federally, et cetera, et cetera. Chevron decision, all those kinds of things. So it's a bit surprising that he was very vocal in his response. So, as you know, this decision or the language coming from the Trump administration and others, Elon Musk and others across the country, elected officials, have said that, listen, we think this, who is this judge? This judge doesn't get to tell the American, the executive branch what to do. Actually, they do. That's kind of the way the system works. So, Chief Judge, this is reporting from CNN. Chief Justice Roberts rebukes Trump and GOP rhetoric about impeaching judges. So the story reads, John Roberts pushed back on President Trump as escalating rhetoric against the federal judiciary in a highly unusual statement that appeared to be aimed at the president's call to impeach judges who rule against him. The federal judiciary is the ultimate brotherhood. I'll say that, brotherhood, because it's predominantly men. 75%, I think, is the number. Might even be higher than that. They tend to stick together. They tend to support each other because people who are on the Supreme Court generally come from the federal judiciary, like the appellate division or the circuit division. So they're kind of like promoted. So this is what he said. For more than 2 centuries, this is what Roberts said. For more than 2 centuries, it's been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision, Roberts said in a statement released by the Supreme Court. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose. Roberts' statement did not mention Trump by name, but it came hours after the president stepped up his attacks on federal judges by specifically calling for U.S. District Judge James Boasberg, who has temporarily blocked the deportations of alleged Venezuelan gang members, to be impeached. Several Trump allies, including Musk, have been calling for weeks to impeach judges amid a slew of preliminary rulings against the Trump administration. Trump's rhetoric opposing the judiciary has been far more aggressive than during his first term, and the administration's approach has raised fears of a constitutional crisis. Yeah, no shit. Republican members of Congress responding to the president have moved to impeach federal judges who serve lifetime appointments. A Texas Republican, Brandon Gill, said on social media Tuesday that he introduced articles of impeachment against Boasberg. Quote, this radical left lunatic of a judge, a troublemaker and agitator who was sadly appointed by Barack Hussein Obama, was not elected president. He didn't win the popular vote by a lot. No. He didn't win all 7 swing states, in caps. Trump posted on Truth Social. This judge, like many of the crooked judges I'm forced to appear before, should be impeached, in all caps. So the independence of the judiciary, and remember all the fucking bullshit that we heard for 4 years about the deep state and the weaponization of government and all the language against judges, right? All the language against judges. They're going after me. They're going after me. This is their job. I'm sorry to tell you. This is their job. Their job is to hold truth to power, right? Their job is to say, their job is to say, listen, what you're doing here is unconstitutional. You may not like it. You may not like my ruling, but it is in fact unconstitutional. So the response from the Trump team, right, is just to say, well, who are you, judge? Do you think you have control over the president? Yeah, in our system they do. So instead of just accepting that and trying to figure out a way to do what you want to do, but to do it under the guise of the Constitution, no. Their response is strictly just to say, let's impeach the judge. Let's impeach the judge, and let's replace him or her with someone who'll do our bidding. Aileen Cannon, for example, when you judge shop. So we're going to keep our eyes on that. And I think it's really interesting, that you get the Chief Justice responding. And I think that is telling, because if more of these things appear before the court, whether it be the birthright citizens debate or more things like this, the constitutionality, and he's right, just appeal it, right? If you don't like the decision made, then you appeal it to your Supreme Court. I think John Roberts has significant influence over Amy Boney Carrot. So if Roberts and Boney Carrot then rule with the liberal justices, then all of a sudden that 5-4 decision is in favor of democracy and not fascism. We'll see. We're getting ahead of ourselves. We're getting way ahead of ourselves, but that's something that I think we should all sort of keep our eyes on, because I was very surprised, to be honest, to see that Justice Roberts had come out publicly, or any justice for that matter. Okay. I want to go back and play this sound for you, because I think it's interesting, just because the rhetoric that folds in every single day, and then the lies that were being told about what was going to happen with those flights. Remember, yeah, Amy Boney Carrot, exactly. That's my little pet name for her. Remember the claim that the Trump administration had made that those flights had already left, right? We're talking about these illegal deportation flights where people were not given their due process, where people were not allowed to even know what they were charged with, right? Reasonable, articulable suspicion. My voice, I know, Steve. No, I'm not feeling so hot today, but thank you. I'll power through as long as I can. So the rhetoric was that there was that the planes were already in the air and there was no legitimate reason to turn them around. Well, we have sound, so we can sort of address that, because there is this is, first of all, this is what Tom Homan had said. Let's play this first, because this is what in context.
Proclamation took his authority under Alien Enemies Act and imposed it, which he has a right to do. TDA has been designated terrorist organizations. TDA is an enemy of this country. We know TDA, based on a lot of evidence, are part of the Maduro regime through the military and law enforcement. They've infiltrated them, and look, they've invaded this country to unsettle this country, through whether it's through fentanyl killing thousands of Americans, or through the violence they're perpetrating in our cities. The president did the right thing. I stand by it. I thought we removed in one day over 200 dangerous people, including MS-13. It was the right thing to do. And I see the video that President Bukele put out. It was a beautiful thing. These people are going to be held accountable.
Is every one of those guys a member of the gang? How do you know it? And why can't they sort that out with a lawyer and a hearing?
Right.
Look, we abided by the court's decision. His written order was on 5 illegal aliens. They didn't want to deport them, and we abided by that. By the time the other order came, the plane was already over international waters.
Incorrect.
With a plane full of terrorists and significant public safety threats. And, to turn a plane around over international waters, we're going to refuel over international waters, come back and bring terrorists back to the United States. That's not what this president promised American people. What the president did was exactly the right thing.
They're all Trinidad, every guy who's on that plane?
I'm not familiar with every single case in that plane, but
you're not.
That's my understanding. MS-13 members and TDA members. And let's remember, many of those on the plane were removed through Title 8, not through the Alien Enemies Act. So, again,
how do you
the right
know?
thing to do. That's what the people of this country mandated President Trump deal with the border crisis, deal with illegal immigration, and deal with illegal alien crime.
But not violate the law.
That's what we did. We removed terrorists. That should be a celebration. We removed terrorists from this country, and I stand by what the president did. I support 100%.
On that, how do you determine whether somebody is a gang member? What criteria do you use?
To various investigations.
That would be due process.
A lot of the ways we do it, law enforcement sensitive. I'm not going to share all that with you, but whether through social media, through the activities, through their criminal records here and abroad. So this was done a very. The review of this issue was at the highest level I've seen, and I think, again, I stand by everything we did this weekend, and I think the president keeping his promise to the American people. We removed terrorists from the country this weekend. I can't believe any media would question the president's ability to remove terrorists from this country.
But what do you say
the gaslight.
What do you say to those who claim you're using a 200-year-old law
Yeah.
to circumvent due process?
An old law?
Right.
Not as old as the Constitution. We still pay attention to that, don't we?
Oh, do we?
How many more terrorists do you plan on?
Well, that's really interesting, don't you think? So, remember, the part that I wanted to kind of focus on there is saying that they did not violate the judge's order, the written element of the order, and they said that they acknowledged and abided by abided by the judge's order. Okay, well, let's see if that's the case, because we have a timeline. Isn't that great? The timeline speaks in contradiction, shocker, to what he had to say. So I'll just play this sound for you, and then we can talk about it. This was reported on by Aaron Burnett, based on call records, based on flight logs, based on all kinds of things. So we know this for a fact. So here we go.
Saturday morning, Trump just woke up and invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. He did that to rapidly deport suspected Venezuelan gang members and perhaps others, but that's who was involved this weekend. It is a law that has only 3 times before been used in U.S. history, all of them during war. Now, here's how it goes down from there. 5:26 p.m. on Saturday night, Eastern Time, the first flight.
Okay, listen, this is the timeline of these flights, okay? So just listen in here and then remember what Tom Homan had said.
Carrying a number of migrants departs from Texas. 19 minutes later, a second flight departs. Now, roughly an hour later, Judge Boasberg, 6:45 p.m. Eastern, verbally tells the Trump administration they must turn around any planes carrying migrants deported under the Alien Enemies Act. Nothing happens, no planes turn around. At 7:26 p.m., a written order to the same effect is posted. Now, a written order. And it is even after that written order at 7:37 p.m. that yet another flight takes off, departing from southern Texas for Central America. Now, that would appear to be a clear violation of the judge's order. But tonight, the Trump administration is arguing that that third flight didn't include people being deported under the Alien Enemies Act.
Oh.
The judge asked for proof. Prove that to me. They have not provided that proof.
Shocker.
Meantime, the president of El Salvador, when these flights ended, tweeted on Sunday morning, "Oopsie, too late," with a crying emoji, a post that the Secretary of State of the United States of America, Marco Rubio, took the time to like.
Lovely.
The president of El Salvador even had camera crews waiting for that made-for-video moment when those planes landed, fully prepared for this. It was a marketing moment.
Sure.
And the administration, it is very important to note here, has offered up several conflicting reasons as to why they did not comply with the judge's order. At one point, they said, well, the planes were already in international water. So sure, we knew about the order, but they were already in international water. Well, of course, one of them didn't even take off from American soil until after the written order from the judge was posted.
Right.
We're already in international waters. We're outside the borders of the United States.
No, you're not.
Again, that third one, that's not the case for.
Correct.
So that caused a little bit of a problem, right? So then at another point today, they had a different argument than the international waters. This time they said it wasn't about where the planes were. It was about the administration's view that an oral order from the judge is not enforceable. And obviously that order was posted well before the written order. It all sounds like looking for excuses, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe that's because it is. Because finally, Trump's border czar actually said this out loud.
We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think.
Nope.
Okay, well, that is loud and clear. That's not international water and when things were that's just like we're going to do what we want to do and we don't care what judges say. Intend to defy the courts if they don't rule as the Trump administration sees fit.
So what did we learn, friends? We learned that the border czar said, I don't give a shit what the judge says. We're going to do it anyway. Right? So when they attempt to spin this and when they gaslight you and they say, well, these flights were already over international waters, that doesn't matter. I've heard someone say, well, they would have, where are they supposed to refuel? Well, they could have turned around and landed back in the U.S., right? Well, okay, they said it was the we don't believe that a verbal order or an oral order is sufficient. Okay, well, if that's the case, then you had a written order, and then you still launched another flight. And then they said, well, that last flight didn't include anybody being deported under the Alien Enemies Act. And then Tom Homan says, well, I don't know everybody who was on that flight. So which is it? Well, I can tell you what it is. It's racism and bigotry. Quite frankly, and they're telling us out loud. Tom Homan flat out said, I don't give a fuck what the judges say. So here we are. This is a constitutional crisis, right? And again, people trafficking, exactly, kidnapping. It's a whole bunch of those things. So here we are, right? The constitutional crisis. If the federal judiciary steps in and says, you can't do this, right? You are violating the law. You are violating due process. You are violating rights, even though our right-wing friends don't believe that That people here, persons here, are protected under the law. On that topic, by the way, I heard some people talking. Oh my God, in a right wing space recently, and they were saying, because the argument is under the 14th Amendment, so the Constitution is brilliant in this regard, whereas it clearly delineates between citizen and persons. So any and all persons are protected under the law when you're in the country. And they said, well, would you think that, if China invaded the country, would those soldiers then be protected under the law? And then they start laughing. And I'm thinking, no, because that's an invading army, which again is part of the argument that they want to use here. So remember, and again, I don't mean to repeat myself on this topic, but it's very important. When you use language like invasion, I may not be able to make it here. We're starting to lose the voice now. When you lose the argument, when you use invasion in your argument, right? And every single time you're talking about it and you repeat it over and over and over and over again, that is to try to make the claim that these people that are here are an invading army. They're not. They are granted the same rights. So that's going to be their spin. Keep an eye on that. And you're going to start to hear them talk about things like that, to say, well, you're saying that if we're invaded by Russia or by North Korea or by China or whomever, or Mexico at this point, they're going to say, well, would those people be given the rights? The answer is no, right? The answer is no, they wouldn't be, because they're an invading army. People attempting to follow the, American dream, or to try to, escape oppression, whatever that might be, they're not an invading army. So it's not just the deportation flights that are horrible. It is the absolute lack of respect for the Constitution. It's the absolute lack of any sort of, I'm not going to say human rights, because they tell us every single day that they don't give a flying fuck about human rights. They just don't care. So something we're going to have to keep an eye on, because according to Tom Homan, these flights are going to continue. Judges be damned. I don't even know what to say about that. Exactly, it's imprisonment without due process, Greg. You're exactly right. That's the whole ball game right there. Everybody, I don't know if you guys ever watched any of the First Amendment auditors, and you'll see people going around the country, and they'll be, I think they would admit that they kind of push it a little bit just to kind of see. And so many people just don't regard our rights as people in our country. You have rights under the law. You're not. We don't live in a police state, although that's kind of what they want. You don't. Law enforcement or civil servants, they are there by design, to protect and serve. So many just don't seem to understand the Constitution. They want to violate people's rights, which is part of why we need to stand up to it, right? The resistance is everywhere. If you know where to look, you got to know your rights. We're working on creating more resources for people to understand what that would look like. Call sheets, know your rights, what you should and shouldn't say. Excuse me. All these things that I think are incredibly important for all of us, right? These situations just make me sad, because there's people that are caught up in it. We know the situation of a Puerto Rican who was a military veteran who got rounded up, right? I mean, it's going to continue, and there's no explanation. So if you think about this, may be a stretch, but I'm going to say it anyway. In Russia, oftentimes people are just disappeared. I think you know what I'm talking about. Does this sound vaguely familiar? I mean, is it a stretch? I don't think so. Do I have a mod available? I just got to go grab some cough medicine just before I start to hack up a lung here. If you're right, it can be done to anybody. We've already been told that if you're a rap lunatic, apparently that would be Moth, that we're radical left lunatics. Are we subjected to this criminality as well? So, thank you for jumping in, Moth. I'll be right back.
Go for it. Get some tea. There you go. Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody Good morning. I don't know about anybody else, but here in Nebraska, despite the fact that it was 80 degrees just the other day, it is now blizzarding outside. So I hope everybody else's weather is better. Yeah. So go ahead and let's get to tapping that screen and sharing the live. We're yeah, welcome to Wisconsin. Yeah, well, it's not a great morning. Let's go ahead and tap that screen. You can still subscribe through FactsStillMatter.site. We suggest that you do it through the site just because we don't know what's going to happen with TikTok. And you can also subscribe annually through the website. So go ahead and do that if you would like to. Let's support our wonderful host who is here battling it out despite the fact that he obviously does not feel well today. I will say though, Steve,
Yes.
your voice, I won't make you yell today. I won't ask you if you're zen.
I am fucking zen, Ma.
There you go.
I am fucking zen.
I was wondering when I hopped in this morning, I was like, the Zaddy voice is sounding a little more zaddier today, and then I realized, oh, he's just sick.
Yeah. It just again, it just kind of crept up on me, but I'll be fine. But I appreciate you, friend. Thank you.
As long as you take care of yourself, don't push it.
Working on it.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
I was just telling them all about our nasty weather that we've got here in Nebraska.
Yeah, the Midwest in general has really getting nailed with all kinds of craziness.
I posted a picture in the mod chat of my backyard. It was just 80 degrees like 2 days ago. And now there's like at least a foot of snow outside.
Really?
And it's still going. It's still fucking going. It's supposed to go through most of today. We have like 40-mile-per-hour winds.
I'm so sorry. What a drag.
Yeah, well, and then it's supposed to warm back up to the 60s like tomorrow. So I don't. I'm probably going to get sick next because I have to go out in it later to go to my second job.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's this time of the year. I was noticing yesterday when I was outside. It's like in spring in the Northeast. It's like you get the buds on the trees. You get maybe longer days. Then you get the smell of rotting and decaying dog poop. That's really nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Woo. Woo. Anyway, thank you for jumping in, Moth. I appreciate you.
Yeah, just if you need another break, just let us know.
You got it.
All right. Love you.
Love you, friend. See you later.
Bye.
All right. So I want to shift our focus about actually let's do this first. So this again, these stories are more and more less surprising when we hear them. You recall a few weeks ago there was a Minnesota state senator who introduced legislation to make the claim and to pass legislation that Trump derangement syndrome was a mental illness. I don't know if you guys remember that. The gentleman's name was Justin Eichorn. Okay. Minnesota Senator Justin Eichorn was arrested on Monday, accused of soliciting a 16-year-old girl for prostitution in Bloomington. Eichorn, who is from Grand Rapids, recently introduced a bill that would declare Trump derangement syndrome as a mental illness. Eichorn is a Republican from Grand Rapids. He is getting a lot of pressure. Was arrested on the 17th of March in Bloomington. The police department communicated with a man. The Bloomington Police Department say that they communicated with a man who thought he was talking to a 16-year-old girl. On March 17th, a detective arranged to meet with him near the 8300 block of Normandale, Boulevard in Bloomington. The man, identified as Eichorn, was seen arriving to the area in a pickup truck. He was then arrested and booked into jail. He has not been formally charged, but felony charges of solicitation of someone under 18 to practice Schmeck's acts are pending from the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. A press release said Eichhorn is a Republican who is married with 4 children. According to Minnesota State Senate bio, he made headlines earlier this week for sponsoring a bill that would clear Trump derangement syndrome, a mental illness. It's kind of par for the course if you're a Republican elected official. Same people that stand up there. He put out a video with family values, with his kids playing the happy nuclear family, talking about his faith, talking about his love of country and his love of his family, his love of you know, the traditional Christian values, and he's soliciting minors, allegedly. So predators, the entire Republican, exactly, not a drag queen, not a member of the LGBTQIA community. He may be, but I'm not judging that. I'm just judging his actions, right? Family values, right? Yeah, exactly. Okay. So like I said, I wanted to kind of talk about, you know, let's do this first, because this is a great clip. As we know, the stock market continues to be down. So there's this mashup that's been done with the language regarding the stock market when the Trump team expected the stock market to kind of climb when he was elected, and then the now. So this is it's a back and forth, and you can obviously tell when they were talking about how it was going to explode because of Trump, and then now, anyway, you'll hear it. Sorry, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. This is the rhetoric that we deal with every single day, which is why we talk about this stuff.
Market is the only sign of life, and it's only going up because everyone thinks Trump is going to win the election.
Ben.
You can't really watch the stock market.
We all saw the stock market soaring post-election. It reached an all-time high today, 82,000.
First of all, that's Laura Ingraham, an all-time high of 82,000. No, the stock market the all-time high is in the 45,000 range. So I don't know what the fuck she's talking about, but that was then.
Optimism everywhere. Just ignore the sky is falling reports in the regime press. Tune out the breathless reporting about market gyrations.
I'm excited about the economy. Look at the stock market. Our rocket ship is getting ready to take off in our economy with President Trump. We were probably overbloated with the stock market here for a while. We went up quite a bit.
You guys want to start with good news? The market's up 25% since you won. You tweeted this out that nobody in the media brings it up, so I said, you know what, I'm going to bring it up tonight.
Forget the stock market for a second here, and I have said on this program for years, it's never been my indicator in terms of the health of the economy.
The market always knows. So the market already started to kind of have this sort of rally, this sort of Trump rally. It's an energy, it's an electricity. We have to be very, very careful about all of this, and the notion that we have to react as Americans based on the market being down. So what?
Oh my God. That is just classic spin. So I remember the numerous claims made by people in Trump's orbit and himself that the stock market, the reason the stock market was breaking records in the last quarter of 2024 was because Trump won the election or was going to win the election, right? And he talked about it every fucking day. That if you don't elect me, if you elect Kamala Harris, you're going to see the stock market crash. As a reminder, friends, since Inauguration Day, stock market's down 3,500 points. Okay? 3,500 points. So then, stock market is a great indicator. Look at all these great things. America's responding. They know Donald Trump is going to take our country forward. Rocket ship, blah, blah, blah. Now, because the stock market is crashing, now it's like, you know, the stock market is really nothing to look at. Don't pay any attention to that. Just ignore it. It's no big deal. So the gaslight, right? It's crazy how far they will go. All right, let me find this reporting because I think this is really great. I don't want to get back in. We'll talk a little bit more about the phone call between Trump and Putin. Let's see if I can find it because I think this is great. They talk about the breakdown between what it would look like if Canada became a U.S. state, right? Do I have it here? I think I do. Where is it? Where did I put it? Everybody, please keep clapping and sharing. I appreciate you. Somewhere I've got it. Pretty sure I have it here. Hold on. I'm just off my game today. I'll find it. Well, while I'm looking for that, let's listen to federal judge blocks that. Federal judge blocks that. Covered that one. Roberts, Besant lying to the American people again. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay. All right. So this is if Canada if Canada and Greenland became part of the United States. So they did. I've always wondered about this. So they did this sort of electoral breakdown, right, as to what that would look like. So this falls into the be careful what you wish for category. This was reported by the AP. President Trump keeps threatening to make Canada the 51st state, right? And the flag stays the same. If you know, you know. And also by Greenland, presumably making the country either a territory or a state. The possibility of either occurring is virtually zero, and that's a good thing for Republicans because while Trump and his MAGA supporters may not realize it, giving those countries the vote would likely send the GOP to the political sidelines. We've seen this movie before. Advocates have been working for years to give statehood to Puerto Rico and to Washington, D.C. Republicans have mostly resisted the effort because both Washington and PR vote Democrat, overwhelmingly so. For example, in the last presidential election, Democratic nominee Kamala Harris received 90% of D.C.'s vote and 73% in Puerto Rico. While the district has a non-voting member of the House of Representatives and no senators, it does have 3 electoral votes that help decide the presidential winner. As a territory with no electoral votes, Puerto Rico's presidential vote is only symbolic, but it does indicate preferences, which I think both of those scenarios are bullshit. PR should be a state, DC should be a state. Not because of the math here, but just because they should. Taxation without representation? I don't think so. If Washington and Puerto Rico were to become states, they would each have 1 House member, which would pull from other states because the number of House members, 435, was set by a 1929 law. Though presumably Congress could change that. Of course they could. Amendments to the Constitution, right? Both states would also have 2 senators, so it's likely making D.C. and Puerto Rico states would give Democrats a significant Senate advantage. Because electorally, Republicans have a big advantage just because of the nature of our politics. Like in representation, these conversations have been happening all the time. Like Vermont, for example. Vermont has the same amount of senators that California does. Wyoming has the same amount of senators that Texas does. Montana has the same amount of senators that Florida does. That's the deal. Guam, similarly, right? Territories. So what about, so then both states would have 2 senators, so it's likely making D.C. and Puerto Rico states would give Democrats a significant advantage. What about Canada? Looking at the Canadian House of Commons, it seems likely that Canadians would vote Democratic, which is true. The Liberal Party has 153 members, and the Conservative Party has 120. Then there's the Bloc Québécois, who are all in Quebec with 33 votes. The Democratic Socialist, the New Democratic Party with 24 votes, and the Green Party has 2. The Liberal Party, the NDP, and the Greens are center-left, comprising roughly 210 votes, nearly twice the amount of the Conservative Party. Let me take care of this. Sorry, friend, you're about to go. The Liberal Party, again, 210 votes, nearly twice the Conservative Party's count. The Bloc's main focus is Quebec independence, but members can shift right or left depending on the issue. Canadian voters have put the Conservatives in power from time to time, and it looked like they were going to do that again in the next election. But Trump's threats and demeaning comments have angered so many Canadians that the Liberal Party is gaining ground and may be heading toward a victory in the next election. Canada has about 40 million people, about the same number as California, which has 52 members of the House. So unless Congress raised the number of members in the House of Representatives, lots of current House congressional districts would migrate to Canada. and there's a good chance Canada's 2 new senators would be center left. But there are also differences that could complicate Canadian statehood. For example, Canadians have a government-run healthcare system. Yes, we know. Most Republicans fiercely oppose government-run health systems. Yes, we know. But trying to take it away from Canadians if they were to become Americans would be a real political challenge. On the other hand, Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont, who has long pointed to Canada as a model for U.S. healthcare, would love having a single-payer system to promote. Yeah, no shit. Single-payer healthcare, everybody gets it. It's not free, but you get it. And you get mittens and cupcakes to go along with it. How about Greenland? Greenland only has about 57,000 people, so if it were a state, it would get only 1 member of the House and 2 senators, right? In the country's recent elections, the center-right Democratite or Democracy Party won the largest share of parliamentary votes, 30%. Is that a pro-Trump development? Hardly. NPR says the likely next prime minister, Jens Frederick Nielsen, has called Trump, quote, a threat to our political independence. In addition, all 5 major political party chairmen, released a joint letter recently saying that, quote, we, all party chairmen, cannot accept the repeated statements on annexation and control of Greenland. We, as party chairmen, find the conduct unacceptable to friends and allies in a defense alliance. So, while it isn't all clear how Trump would take over Canada and Greenland, the population of both countries strongly oppose the idea. A recent YouGov poll finds nearly all Canadians, 78%, strongly or somewhat oppose Canada becoming part of the U.S., while just 15% of Canadians support it. And according to our Canadian friends, they all live in Alberta. And even though Trump claimed that Greenlanders want to be with us, reporting says in a new poll finds that 85% of Greenlanders do not want their island to become part of the United States. If Trump and Republicans were to somehow make Canada and Greenland part of the U.S., the newly created voters in both former countries would vote overwhelmingly for the U.S. political party that opposed Trump's efforts, the Democrats. Thus, if Trump wins, Republicans will surely lose. So, you know, I don't think they think these things through. And that is according to the 1929 law did establish that it would be 435 members of the House, right? You gain and lose seats depending on, you know, census data. You know, maybe you gain a seat in California or you lose a seat in Texas or vice versa based on population and migration within our borders. But the number is set at 435. So we know how tight the margins are, right? We know how, how liberal leaning both Canada and Puerto Rico are. And according to this, similarly with Greenland. So again, I guess you can't gerrymander Senate seats, that's interesting. I hear what you're saying, Marina. You can't gerrymander a Senate seat. Those are statewide elections. But point taken. So I think it's fascinating that we are here at this point in time when they're making these claims about annexation and or acquiring and or buying, and you still hear it uttered in right-wing circles about how great it would be to acquire. Talk about biting the nose to spite your face. I think that's the quote, right? You lose your layup. There's electoral advantages for Republicans. There's no doubt about it. Electoral advantages, which is why they don't want to do away with the Electoral College. So here we are, right? Here we are with these promises, and if that were to happen, right, you'd have more Democratic senators and you'd have more Democrats in the House. Plain and simple. That's just the reality, which goes back to our map drawing of Cantifa. We'll just exclude Alberta since it doesn't matter anyway to liberal Cantifa, and we'll just take over the world with our new partners. We've seen the pushback from the EU about these just ridiculous statements about Denmark and about Greenland, and we know it's not going to happen. It's just part of the distraction, right? So that particular distraction coincided with the U.S. aid, eliminating USAID, right? the distractions around Canada, or because he knew he was going to be imposing tariffs, so he wants to blame it on Canada, saying that they've been taking advantage of us. Meanwhile, they export just as much as far as dollars and cents to us as we export to them. So no, they're not taking advantage of us. They are a trading partner. And the whole situation, the obsession with Greenland is just weird. And I've talked about that before. It's Russia. We know that. It's Russia. It's Canada, Greenland, and Panama. All those things are directly tied to Russia. So we don't know about the negotiations that have happened, between Trump and Putin. That whole, whatever it was that happened yesterday, we're going to start to get reporting on that likely over the course of the day. But this whole thing, I think, is just it's comical, to be honest. Let's call it what it is. It's comical. All right, everybody, please keep tapping and sharing. Let me just check here real quick. Excuse me, sorry. Thank you to mention these thanks going out to our amazing community. Thank you to Bobby, to Jen, to Izzy, to That Witch Sarah for becoming new subscribers. We appreciate you guys. We're also working on at the end of this month, we're going to be playing Cards Against Humanity on 3 separate occasions. So we're working on that. I again have an amazing mod team. We do a lot of our activities in Discord. It's just another incentive to become a subscriber. You don't need to be a subscriber to join Discord. Our Discord is open. Our Discord is free. Please consider joining, because that's the hub of all of our stuff. Also, over on the FactsStillMatter, FactsStillMatter.site, our HQ, you'll get access, and I need to do a better job of this, to be honest, and I will. More exclusive content, subscriber-only content. Hey, now. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. That's not going to happen. No one's going to pay for that. Nobody's going to pay for that. But there will be more subscriber-specific content, just as another perk. And then if you do want to buy some merch from the merch store, I'd suggest subscribing, because you get 10% off. So there's that. Okay. We mentioned the Dow. It was down. It closed down at the end of business yesterday to down 260 points. All right. We talked about that. Okay. So this person who's being interviewed here, his name is Alexander Dugin. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Alexander Dugin. He has been referred to as he's a Russian scholar, and he's been referred to as Putin's brain, or Putin's philosopher. So he's being interviewed, and I'll do my best to try to. There's some subtitles, but he speaks English quite well. I think we can muddle through it, but I just want to make sure that we play this, because I think it's really important, because it speaks to kind of the things that we've talked about in regards to Trump's desire to be a dictator and an autocrat, and this kind of speaks to it.
There's a lot of people, obviously, in the West who believe and fear that President Trump is closer ideologically and politically to Vladimir Putin than he is to his Western allies. What do you think?
Yes, it's so. I agree. That is obvious. That is obvious. He is much more conservative. He is in favor of traditional values. He is in favor of the patriotism of the nation. And I define that as the great powers world order. Putin and Trump coincide in accepting this model instead of liberal globalism.
So, again, this guy knows Vladimir Putin very well. Again, his name was Alexander Dugin. He's often been referred to, he's a Russian scholar, often referred to as Putin's brain or Putin's philosopher, and he's considered by many to be the ideological architect of the Kremlin's of the Kremlin chief's invasion of Ukraine. So the question that he asked was, we see Trump aligning with autocrats and dictators. Do you agree? And he's like, yeah, I do. So this is what I see. And we just, isn't it ironic, don't you think, that leading up to the election, the right likes to refer to the left as the New World Order, globalists, right? The New World Order is happening in front of our eyes because we are seeing a realignment of trading partners, a realignment of allies, a realignment of reliable partners, whether it be economically, strategically, militarily, all these things. And this a little too ironic. You're right, Iggy. This goes exactly to what we discussed many times, right? The USAID piece. And I don't think this gets discussed enough because, again, where was that audio from, please? It was an interview, Luna, and I'll post it. I'll grab it and post it. That'll go into our show prep folder. Hold on. Right there. Okay. The whole USAID element of how when we don't deliver humanitarian aid supplies and we don't deliver, money to support these marginalized communities around the world, and we're not providing resources for clean water, all those kinds of things, and we don't deliver them with a nicely wrapped American flag around it, then autocratic powers like China are there to pick up the pieces. So all these things kind of matter. So this guy who knows Putin very, very well, who's been part of the ideological strategy, has said, yeah, this is exactly what I see. I see him, his desire to be an autocrat. And it would be great now if the right could just stop talking about it, stop ignoring it and just admit it. Yeah, we believe that we're better off if we partner with Russia. We're better off if we partner with China, right? Economically, we already do. We're better off if we partner with Hungary, right? All these, North Korea. So it's this global shift. And I think these are the kinds of things that have decades-long consequences, in my opinion. This is isolationism. We all know the history of isolationism and what it led to. For those of you who don't know, Woodrow Wilson, post-World War I, believed in this theory of isolationism, that we're going to turn a blind eye. We're going to ignore the rest of the world. We're going to ignore, treaties that have been signed. So the Versailles Treaty was signed post-World War I, ignored time and time again by Schmittler as they redeveloped their military, as they redeveloped parts of their society in direct violation of the Versailles Treaty. So all those things kind of happened as the United States had turned a blind eye to isolate itself from not only what was happening, but also from our partners. And, the argument that the entitled Americans like to claim is that we're the ones responsible for defeating fascism in World War II. That the defeat was already underway, and we were there to pick up the pieces. It's the Brits. It's other allies in Europe. It's the Brits. It's the Russians. It's with some help from the Americans, right? So we're kind of at that tipping point again in our history where you want to isolate ourselves. And they refer to the liberals as being globalists. Okay, right? Okay, because we believe in our partnerships, because we believe in treaties, because we look at the world and we say it's a global economy now. We all we're all interdependent on everybody else. And when you are bending the knee to Vladimir Putin, remember what Putin wanted, right? He wanted the territory that he illegally took, and he didn't want Ukraine to be in NATO. And those are the two things that both Donald Trump and Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth have all said. They would not support Ukraine being in NATO, and Russia's not going to give up the territory that they took illegally. So here we are again, isolating our European allies. They're the ones that are under threat. We've already seen Poland increase their defense spending. We've already seen Poland responding because they're on the border with Ukraine. We've already seen other European countries getting together to say we don't need the U.S. because we can't depend on the U.S., right? We've seen European leaders standing up to Trump in the Oval Office, dispelling some of the lies that are told pretty regularly. And this is where we are, right? It and I think it's really important that we remind people that there was this vote recently to basically in the UN, admonishing Russia for their illegal invasion, and the U.S. didn't sign it, along with North Korea and Russia. So this exactly, how is this our timeline? This is our timeline, though. These are the things that this is what happens when you don't pay attention to your democracy, or if you sit stuff out. Now, we know that, again, you guys know how I feel about the protest voters. You know how I feel about apathy, right? You know how I feel about that. When you see the ceasefire being broken by the Israelis, by the Israeli government, Bibi Netanyahu in particular. Let's play some sound from Bibi because I think it's important. Because we're going to cover these things because we know that our friends on the right won't.
Citizens of Israel, citizens of Israel, for weeks now, we acted tirelessly in order to achieve one goal: to bring back all the efforts to return our hostages. We extend the ceasefire for weeks when we didn't get any hostages. We put delegations to Doha and Cairo, along with the mediators. We accepted the suggestions of Witkoff from the US. However, Hamas denied any ceasefire suggestion. I promise to you, if Hamas did not release our hostages, we will return to battle. And indeed, we did. We returned to battle forcefully. Together with the Minister of Defense, I accepted the IDF's recommendation to return to a forceful fighting against Hamas. From now on, Israel will fight against Hamas with more and more power, and the negotiations will, from now on, be under fire. Hamas already felt our force, and I'd like to promise them this is only the beginning. We will continue to fight in order to get all the goals of the war: returning all our hostages, destruction of Hamas, and the promise that Gaza will no longer be a threat for Israel.
There you have it, right? So again, those protest voters that decided to not participate in democracy because they believed that it was Kamala Harris and the Biden administration that was, not supporting the efforts, the humanitarian efforts, and whatever else regarding a ceasefire in that region. And we know that it was the Netanyahu government who violated the ceasefire, as we expected. The promises made by the Trump administration that this war was going to end as well, it hasn't. And you heard it from Bibi's mouth, right? From his ass, I should say, with the full support of the American government, the Trump administration, to basically do what they're going to do. Turn it into the Gazan Riviera, turn it into whatever that might be. So this is where we're at in regards to that. We've got, I know I'm trying I can't drink enough water. The violation of the ceasefire, the broken ceasefire by the Israeli government under Bibi Netanyahu's leadership, with full support of the Trump administration, 400 or more innocent Palestinians' lives were taken. Right, we know that. We know that the negotiation for the ceasefire in Ukraine, the Ukrainians agreed, but it's Putin who won't. Putin has demanded basically that I get the territory that I took, and I am not going to allow Ukraine to join NATO. And Putin demanded immediately that they would stop. I know, I'm feeling pretty rough. That the U.S. stop sending humanitarian aid or just aid in general. It's not going to happen. So where does that leave us, right? Where does it leave us? It leaves us in this very precarious position, right? When this rhetoric has already led to allies looking to each other without the United States because we're not a reliable partner. Because of, yeah, exactly. Rainey. Ukraine was attacked within hours of the call. So that's kind of my point, right? It's this guy, it's this tough guy, this bravado, the lies that he told his base, the lies that he told in his interviews with Maria Bartiromo or whomever else, that I could end this war before I even took office, and just blame everybody else's fault, not his fault, everybody else's fault. It was Biden. And here we are, when you bragged on your safe space, Truth Social, that you were the ones that's going to end these conflicts, and neither one of them are even close to being ended, in my opinion. Neither one, right? Putin's not going to back down. He's playing Trump. He will get something from Trump that we won't find out about for years. He will get something. He will get some sort of concession. He'll get some sort of public statement. They were celebrating. There's reporting from RTN that the sound, the interview, or that presser in the Oval Office with Zelensky was being played on loop over and over again throughout Russia, right? You know, how they tried to dress him down and he just sat there like the war hero he is and took it and pushed back. And they're playing that on loop over and over again. So the world is in a precarious position right now because of the promises made. Well, it's not always been, I guess. But more importantly, the rhetoric that they've used, that it's the left that are pushing these things, that it's WW3. And this is right at the feet of the Trump administration. What are they going to do? How are they going to respond to those tornadoes and massive storms in the Midwest? You heard him talk about that at all? No, of course not. Right? Yeah, exactly. It's Putin. He is Krasnov. All right, let's see what he has to say on True Social. I haven't checked this morning. Lie Central. Okay, let's see. This is interesting. This is 9 hours ago. If a president doesn't have the right to throw unalivers and other criminals out of our country because a radical left lunatic judge wants to assume the role of president, then our country is in very big trouble and destined to fail. I want to read that again. Okay. If a president doesn't have the right to throw unalivers and other criminals out of our country because a radical left lunatic judge wants to assume the role of president, then our country is in very big trouble and destined to fail. Interesting, since that's not what's happening. Remember we discussed earlier about the Alien Enemies Act and his attempt to create this fantasy that people that are here in our system are going through either going through asylum or they're undocumented or whatever it might be, would claim that they're invaders and thus giving him the right constitutionally to kick people out. Exactly, Mary, without due process. This is what's happening. So if a president doesn't have if the president can't just throw people out of the country without due process, then why should a judge stop me? I don't even know what to say about that. Let's see what else, other nuggets he's got this morning. No, I don't want to read that one because that's just stupid. There's another one I wanted to. Wow, what a great interview of Elon Musk by Sean Hannity. A must-watch. Two great Americans. Okay. All right. This is one. I love it when he retweets things about himself or retweets posts that make him look good, and he just kind of does it. Anyway, I'll go back to that. I'm sorry, guys. Don't have a lot of energy today, but we'll muddle through here. Okay. We talked about the stock market. We talked about the Minnesota state senator. Okay, I want to read this one because this is again, this is impactful of some of his voting base, right? Excuse me. Some of his voting base, a lot of the rural farmers, a lot of rural communities, a lot of rural counties, and the damage that we told them was going to happen under the next Trump administration, similarly to the last Trump administration. So this is reporting from, what is this from? This is from the State Journal Register. This is in Illinois, so local newspaper, local news agency. Trump administration cancels grant allowing Illinois schools to buy from local farmers. The Trump administration on March 7th canceled $26.3 million in grant funds that would have supported Illinois schools, childcare sites, and farmers through 2028. The agreement would have supported up to 4,017 public and non-public schools and 1,250 childcare sites in purchasing locally grown foods. Altogether, the USDA has cut over $1 billion nationwide in funding in recent months from initiatives that look to help schools and food banks purchase from local farmers. The entire point here is that local farmers in the state of Illinois were supporting public schools through this program that they had set up through their own Department of Agriculture. So they were supporting public schools, they were supporting child care sites, and the Trump administration just said, no, you can't do that. Why? A federal fund has been cut that provided Illinois schools and child care centers with healthy foods from local farms and suppliers. The Trump administration on March 7th canceled $26.3 million in grant funds that would have supported Illinois schools, child care sites, and farmers through 2028, according to a news release from the Illinois State Board of Education. Here's what you need to know. The agreement would have supported up to 4,017 public and non-public schools and 1,250 childcare sites in purchasing high-quality, locally grown, fresh food from Illinois farmers to use in meals and snacks. Illinois farms and farmers supporting Illinois school children, which also helps the Illinois farmers. The existing grant supported approximately 2,100 schools serving over 1 million students in purchasing food locally grown from 138 different farms and ranches across the state. The $7.4 million from a pre-existing grant will be available to grantees through the end of January of 2026. Other states, too, were notified that the USDA had cut funding for similar programs throughout 2025. This is the program. It's Local Food for Schools, and Local Food for Schools and Childcare are two different local food funding opportunities. LFS was set to conclude on January 31st, 2026, and LFSCC would have been able to start if it had not been terminated, a spokesperson wrote. The $26.3 million was canceled, would have broken down to approximately $17.8 million for schools over the 3 years, plus $8.5 million for childcare over the last 3. Again, I don't have to read anymore, but why? Why? It's the cruelty is the point, right? Exactly. Imagine if Kamala Harris came out with some policies like that. So again, think about the circle. Illinois farmers and ranchers producing healthy food. Where are you, RFK, to stand up to something like this? Illinois farmers and ranchers producing healthy food to support Illinois school children. So it stays within the state, right? Thousands of Illinois school children having access to healthy food, fruits and vegetables, grown by and delivered by Illinois farmers and ranchers, and they're cutting it? Why? The cruelty is the point. Similarly, the Illinois Department of Agriculture announced on March 4th the end for 2 grant programs that use federal funds to buy food from growers and producers and distribute it to food banks, as well as a program that offers better market opportunities and new streams of revenue to small and mid-sized agricultural producers. Altogether, the USDA has cut over $1 billion nationwide in funding in recent months from initiatives that look to help schools and food banks purchase from local farmers. I don't even know what to say about that. You know, we discussed this yesterday. You guys, I got to get some tea. I'll be right back. I'm sorry about that. I'll be right back. Hang in there, please. Everybody keep tapping and sharing. I'll be right back.
Good morning, everyone. I missed you. I'm here to remind you to please support our fabulous hostess with the mostest. He's our marvelously magnetic, mindful media marketer, and he's here every day with that fiery, feral fist for freedom, bringing us facts over feelings because facts still matter, and they always will. So if you have the means, let's help Fox meet his gift goal. You can find pay apps in the link tree of his bio, as well as the Fox HQ and Discord link. You can also reach the HQ via FactsStillMatter.site, where we've got news and media, live sources that are referenced here on this show, as well as community resources. You can view and purchase merchandise. If you're a sub, you get 10% off that merchandise. It's one of our many perks. If you aren't a sub, I'm going to start questioning your priorities, especially if you place an order. Yeah, you might as well sign up and get that discount. It will pay for itself. Plus, you get an annual subscription offer as well, where you can save that way. And as Fax had mentioned, with our Discord, we are setting up a March 29th Cards Against Humanity game night with 3 different time slots and prizes for the winners. Speaking of Discord, if you're just looking for that fun free forum for the Facts family to frolic, then Discord is the place. It is the premier social hub. If you want to join, the link to the link is in the link tree. And if it doesn't work, you can try copying and pasting it into a browser or Google. If that doesn't work, just reach out to a moderator and we'll hook you up. Now, when you join, please open a ticket so we can get your account verified. There's 3 quick questions to answer. We do this as part of our process to maintain a safe space for our community. In Discord, there is a mutual aid channel, and we have a few folks that are looking for some help. If you could spare a few extra dollars, please consider doing so. No amount is too small. It all adds up. One needy individual in particular, Walt Real, is a former moderator, and he was looking for some assistance to buy his first home through these tough times. Please consider reading his request. Now, if you haven't already, click that follow or orange heart up at the top of the screen next to Fax's name. You can join the team for the cost of a penny. You can do this every day, and it helps to keep us relevant and on the FYP. As I mentioned, there is a gift goal. We'd love to reach it. But if you can't help, no worries. All we ask is that you interact in the comments as well as tapping your little hearts out. It's always free to tap and share out the live. If you don't have any friends, just click the copy link. It works the same as a share and no one will be the wiser. After this live stream, if you would, head on over to YouTube and subscribe to Facts Still Matter there as well, and like a video if you would. You can rewatch shows for any information you may have missed. Subscriptions on YouTube are free, just like following your favorite creators here on TikTok. So with that being said, Steve, take care of yourself, sir. Y'all be kind, smile at a stranger, and have a fuck your feelings kind of day.
I love you, Eve. Thank you very much.
I love you, sir. Whee!
Okay. Yes, all those things. Do all those things. Thank you. So, as we sort of keep an eye on, like we discussed often, right? Where are the roadblocks? Where are the guardrails for this, fascist takeover of our country? We know that there are cowards in Congress. We know that the GOP are evil. The Republican Party does not have a spine when it comes to they just literally will vote to take away the rights of people because they don't care about that because they're too afraid to stand up to Trump because they don't want to get voted out. The Democrats are disorganized, as always the case, right? That they don't seem to have a plan to fight back. Although I'm starting to see some positive signs. So our dependency to stop this freight train to fucking hell is the judiciary. So we see federal judges standing up to these illegal deportation flights. We see federal judges blocking Elon Musk from some of the treacherous things that he's done, whether it be in regards to USAID or letting his, camp counselors in training just run rampant through the Treasury Department and the DOE. Well, there's another example from the federal judiciary, something that they've stepped in to try to help. Federal judge indefinitely blocks Trump's ban on transgender service members, saying it's, quote, soaked in animus. A federal judge has indefinitely blocked, this reporting from the AP, a federal judge has indefinitely blocked Donald Trump's ban on transgender service members, dealing a major defeat to a controversial policy the president resurrected from his first term. In a scathing ruling, U.S. District Judge Ana Reyes said the administration cannot enforce the ban, which was set to take effect later this month. Reyes, an appointee of former President Biden, wrote that, quote, this ban is soaked in animus and dripping with pretext. Its language is unabashedly demeaning. Its policy stigmatizes transgender persons as inherently unfit, and its conclusions bear no relation to fact. Indeed, the cruel irony is that thousands of transgender service members have sacrificed, some risking their lives, to ensure for others the very equal protection rights the military ban seeks to deny them, she wrote. The judge said she was pausing her preliminary injunction until Friday morning to give the administration time to appeal it to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. The ruling came in a case brought by transgender active duty service members and others hoping to enlist in the military who would be barred from service under the ban. Reyes said they had shown that they would likely succeed on their claim that the ban violated rights afforded to them by the Constitution. Days after taking office, Trump signed an EO directing the Pentagon to implement its own policies that say transgender service members are incompatible with military service. The government had argued that continuing to permit trans individuals to serve in the U.S. would negatively affect, among other things, the military's lethality, readiness, and cohesion. Quote, defendants have not provided a legitimate reason for banning all transgender troops. So that is great news. That there's no other way to say it. That is great news. Obviously, the injunction is paused until Friday to give the defendants, in this case, it's the government, a chance to respond. I am so grateful something like that happened. So one of the things that doesn't get discussed enough when we're talking about the political machine is the appointment of federal judges. Joe Biden appointed more federal judges than I think anybody who's ever served in just 4 years. And he significantly more than Trump. So situation like this, when a district court judge, a federal judge appointed by Joe Biden, was the person that would be responding to this case and came out with a scathing ruling that, again, we know that it's unconstitutional. I would like to think even a judge appointed by Trump or Bush or whomever, a conservative judge, I would like to think they would look at the same thing to say that this is unconstitutional. Yes, thank you, Joe Biden. Agreed. So the appointment of judges is incredibly important, right? Incredibly important. We know that part of the right-wing strategy that goes back a very, very long time that Mitch McConnell was influential in was the reshaping of the federal judiciary, right? So I forget how many federal judges there are in all various levels. There's hundreds, if not thousands, across the country, right? Mitch McConnell's wet dream was to reshape the entire federal judiciary because it was his claim that our country was becoming too liberal. Oh no, becoming too liberal. Oh no, that we would support women's rights to their body. Oh no, that we would care about education. Oh no, that we're open-minded to suggestions and opinions and thoughts and feelings of other people. Oh no, that we care about democracy. Oh no. Point being is that Mitch, the crypt keeper that he is, wanted to reshape the federal judiciary, which he did, all the way up to the Supreme Court, as we know. So when those vacancies happen because a federal judge is appointed for life, right? That is a lifetime appointment, which is problematic in and of itself. That's a different conversation. So successfully filling in federal judiciary vacant seats and or leaning in hard to get those confirmations done, which he did an amazing job at. He, along with members of the Senate, because that's where the approvals come through. This is a win because of that, because of the attention paid to things like this, knowing full well that what they're doing is unconstitutional. You blame Mitch for the downfall of our nation? Yeah, he's got a lot to blame there. But again, this is good news. We're always looking for something that is good news, right? We're always looking for a little nugget here and there. What will happen to the Supreme Court under Trump? We can talk about that in a second because this is where I'm going with this. When you see rulings like that, I think we're all now conditioned to fear the worst, and I think it's legit that we can all have those fears, right? I think we're all conditioned to say there's going to be no one individual that's going to stand up. And as we discussed yesterday in our quest to find political courage, when you see all these things that are being deemed unconstitutional, you've now got cover. So follow my logic here. Federal court judges on 3 separate occasions have stopped the Trump agenda, right? The USAID firings and the firings of federal employees, right? They stepped in there. Most recently, they stepped in regarding those illegal deportation flights. They stepped in there, and they stepped in here now with this ridiculous ban, banning transgender service members or people who are in the trans community with their willingness to serve, to raise their hand and defend their nation, right? That provides cover for Republican members of Congress. That provides cover. There's your out right there. You're not in opposition. Otherwise, you're in opposition to the Constitution. So if you could come out publicly, we need a relatively prominent Republican in the House or the Senate that comes out and says, The judge made a ruling that would deem these actions by the Trump administration unconstitutional. I support the Constitution. I support the rulings of the judiciary. You can say it. That was pretty damn good. I should offer that up to somebody. Guys, you would think I was a speechwriter or something. Hey, now, you could literally, there's your cover, right? There's your opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to side with the Constitution. How far we've fallen that we can't even do that, right? I choose to side with the Constitution. I believe in constitutionality. I believe that what the judge ruled based on the language and based on what was happening, that these rulings abide by the Constitution. I do not support filing articles of impeachment against federal judges because I don't agree with the ruling. Our system of checks and balances require various elements within our government to what's the word? To accept the ruling that what you're doing is unconstitutional. Abide by the ruling. That's right. So that's cover for Republicans. So use it, right? Use it. Who's it going to be? Are we going to see anybody? Are we going to see adhere? Thank you. That's another word. Thank you. Good one. Good word. Those are the kinds of things that I think we should be able to expect or would hope for. So you're going to see more and more examples, I think, of rulings against their fascism, hopefully, by the federal judiciary, and likely every single one of these is going to be appealed. Remember the conversation about the segregation academies, things like that, potentially. Yeah, all these things, right? So remember, as we talk about every single day, there's so many things are intended to distract, right? Ain't gonna be Lady G, that's for sure. Yeah, it's not gonna be Lady G. You're right. Everything's intended to distract, right? We know that the distractions are always there to hide from something else that's significantly more nefarious. Well, if you're in a community that's impacted by some of these decisions, whether you're a federal aid worker, whether you're a federal employee, whether you're a member of LGBTQIA, in particular, a trans service member, whether you're, you could be anything, whether you are a visa holder or a green card holder, and you've been wrapped up in this illegal deportation, there is the federal judiciary is on your side constitutionally. Not in every case, right? And I'm not saying that we need to put all of our eggs in that basket, but this is an example. The problem is, as we've heard them say, they're just not going to pay attention. They're not going to care. The JFK files, perfect example. Everything in that with a few things that were redacted, nothing's new. So that's another distraction. There's nothing new in that. There's nothing new. These promises, they're designed to tell people, they're going to use that as fodder. They're going to say, we told you we're going to release the JFK files. They're not going to talk about what's in it. They're not going to, because there's nothing new. It's just some redacted bullshit. So we can thank these judges, right, for upholding the Constitution. Again, the problem is if we have people in our government, including the person at the top of our government, just not caring about the constitutionality of things and just are willing to ignore a federal judge, then I don't know where we go with this. I don't know where we go. It's going to take courage from potential law enforcement officials or ICE officials or members of the FBI or Department of Homeland Security, whatever it might be, for these people to say, listen, I can't speak specifically to the language. Maybe there's a vet who wants to come up, but you don't have to accept an unlawful order, right? I believe that's the case. You don't have to abide by and obey an unlawful order. I guess the question is, I think I'm right about that. Please check me if that's not the case. I guess the question is, what's then considered unlawful, right? We already know that the Trump team wants to declare protests illegal. We have no guideline. We have no guideline as to what would be considered illegal, right? We have no guideline. No one knows. So all these rallies that we're going to, thank you guys. I appreciate you confirming that. For all these rallies that people are going to be going to, that we encourage folks to go to, whether it be at your state capitals or someplace else, because they are clearly anti-fascism and in many cases anti-Trump and anti-Republican, are those going to be considered illegal? Right? Are those going to be considered illegal? And then what's the justification then, or what's the can be done but not easy? Thank you, Obi. I appreciate that. Okay. I'll bring up a guest, and we'll get back to that in just a second. Alibi, how are you today?
Great. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. What's on your mind today?
I shouldn't say great. I'm happy to be alive, but shocked by what I'm seeing. Have you heard anything more about the people that Trump put on the plane and represented as all criminals? Has he had to show evidence of this yet?
They've been asked to. The judge basically said, provide us with the evidence, and they've yet to do so. And they won't.
You don't think they will?
Nope. I don't. Why would they? Because if they had done what they said, and they could prove that these were gang members or terrorists or on watch lists or whatever else, or were criminals, then why wouldn't they just share that information? But because they haven't, that should tell everybody that they have, that they're violating people's constitutional rights.
It's just.
And remember, it's not just the deportation. That's bad enough. It's holding people in foreign lands in their prisons and their holding cells without due process. These are just so blatantly in opposition to our Constitution and to what our rights mean under the law.
I don't understand how anyone would think that's okay if
because they're told to think that way.
Well, they've demonized these people to the point where they looked at them as insects, I guess, at this point. But it's shocking to me. I think he thinks he's still in a TV reality show because he presents it that way. It looked like it was filmed for a movie or something, And I'm having a hard time dealing with it, to be honest with you. But
we all are. I think I'm trying to paint that. I mean, I'm always going to be a glass half full kind of person, so I'm going to look at things like this, like federal judges standing up to it and defending democracy and defending the rights of the trans community and defending the rights of people who are being illegally deported and defending the rights of federal workers. So we've got to be able to take those as wins, as small as they may be. I would consider that a win, right? We don't know how it's going to play out. We don't know if there's ever going to be any, I don't know if the Trump administration is going to abide by these rulings. We don't know. It seems like their appetite right now is to not do that so they can distract us from something else.
Well, and I heard you talking about the food program for Illinois.
It's crazy.
That's where I'm from.
What's the reason behind that? Why would you want to do something like that? I mean, it does so many things that you say you support. You say you want to take care of the kids. You say you want to support farmers. You say you want to make America first. All these things, they check every box. Farmers and ranchers producing high quality food for citizens of the state of Illinois, and yet you don't think that's good. I don't get it.
I guess the only possible reason is because he doesn't have his hand in it and he's not profiting out of it. What other?
Follow the money, right?
Yeah, that could be the only thing, because something that's working so well and efficiently and is working both for the farmers and for the school system, why would you take that away? So you can have more money in your pocket?
It's the cruelty.
When are the people going to realize that he's not doing this to balance the budget? He's doing it just to get paid himself and the people around him.
Yeah, if you wanted to balance the budget, you wouldn't be wanting to raise the debt ceiling. Let's be real.
Yeah,
right.
That's it. So it's pretty simple math, and hopefully people eventually are going to wake up to it. That's the only hope I have. So
I agree. Thanks for jumping in today, friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you later. It's a really good point, right? I think the point is it's the cruelty. And someone said this in the comments. Say, dude, you know that they're not going to abide by this. They don't give a rip. I would agree. I don't think they. You're going to see. How do I want to put this? Constitutional crisis for sure. If you have one branch of government in our system that is not accepting the ruling of another, that's problematic, to say the least. When we have the federal judiciary saying that what you're doing is unconstitutional, stop doing it, and the parties, the president and his administration who took an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution are just going to ignore it, then we don't have a system anymore, right? We don't have a system anymore. It just doesn't exist. And that's the fear, right? That's the big fear I think that we should all think about. So we'll celebrate this as a victory for now. Susie Cusey, how are you today?
Hi. Can you hear me?
I can.
You just showed up on my thing and I've never heard of you before, but I've been listening and I like what I hear. I want to, I'm really scared. I have nobody to talk to about any of this because everybody in my life is in a bubble or they're Trumpers or they just don't care. And I'm 58. I am disabled and I am like in fear of this whole, we're kind of like, I feel like we're reliving the H, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The big H.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know what you thought, or if anything, I wish I could hear something that from somebody that would make me feel safe. I don't feel safe. I'm in a blue state too, and I thank God for my blue state, but I also know what's going on with our government now and what they're taking away. They're taking everything away, and I don't know. I wanted to know what you were thinking.
First of all, I think you should never apologize for your feelings, Susie. I mean, we're all in this, and I respect the fact that you're scared. I think we all are, and I think it's really okay to embrace that. That's where I would start. Go ahead.
Can I say something?
Please.
I have been fighting this like I knew. This is crazy, okay? Back in the 90s, okay, I've been a single mother most of my adult life, and I was raising my children, and I was also researching Nostradamus and all that stuff. I was into that. At the same time, Trump was really big in the thing. 45, I'm going to say 45, okay? 45 was really big in the scene, and at the same time, I was studying Nostradamus and the end of time and the Antichrist. And I literally, because he was so out there and I had such a bad feeling about him, watching him every day, and I said to a friend, I wouldn't be surprised if he's our Antichrist. I said that in the 90s, right? Now, I went on with my life. I really wasn't much in politics until Obama was running, and I got really involved. And then, that was great. Obama was awesome. And then Trump. When Trump came down that escalator, I almost shit my pants. I was like, are you kidding me? How can this be? And everybody kept saying, oh, he'll never be president. He'll never be president. So in 2016, I went on my thing on social media, all over social media, anything I could about anything that was bad that was going on with this guy. And here we are. Nobody listened to me. And I know there's millions and millions and millions like me out there. And nobody listened to me. They thought I was delusional, that I was a Trump hater, that I was a negative Nelly, Debbie Downer. And I'm so frustrated because I'm alone. And if they came and took us away, the elderly, I don't look older, but I am older and I am disabled, and they came and took us away, nobody would come find me. And that's really a scary thought. And it's scary because I fought all these years and I feel nobody listened. I don't know.
Well, Susie, you found a community here. I'm glad you found us that, will listen. I would encourage you to please join our Discord. You can find the Discord link in the link tree in my bio. If it's not working there, moderator, I'm sure at this point, all my mods are going to reach out to you and invite you to join our Discord. I will say this to you. You're not alone, right? You're definitely not alone. You are one of many who are realizing that what we're going through is real, and we need to kind of, I think accepting it, much like anything else, right? Accepting the reality of the circumstance, I think helps people process it. So you are right to say that we should be afraid, because I think we are all afraid for different circumstances and different reasons, right? But I also hear in your voice that you might feel defeated right now, but you can't let them win. We have a big motto around here that it's do something, right? It's do something, whatever that would look like. Now, not everyone is cut out to run for office. Not everyone is cut out to help a campaign, but there are things that we can all do in our community to help people who are under threat, right? We can all find things to do to help our fellow neighbor to navigate through this. We can all pay more attention. We can all learn more about what our rights are. We can open up our home to people who are potentially under threat from marginalized groups that are under threat. There are things that we can do. So my advice would be to not necessarily focus on the day-to-day things. I mean, that's my job. I mean, if you want to come back tomorrow, I'll report on the news for you. But outside of this 4-hour window that we're here every single day, there's things that I think you can do to try to help yourself feel better by helping others. Ultimately, the goal of empaths is to make sure that other people are taken care of. And that in turn will help them, so that you can create a situation where you've stepped in to help people. And I know it sounds kind of like, pie in the sky, but this is where we're at. This is where we're at right now.
I am still on, all platforms. I'm not on X, and I don't go on X. I'm not on True Social, but I follow everything, left, right, you name it, to try to, I sometimes feel like I just want to get off of this everyday just blast of negativity, blast of the dismantling of our country. I don't know. I don't get out much. But like I said, I'm on social media. I'm on everything. I'm trying to get the word out and I have been, but it just feels like hopeless. And then people are fucking around and finding out now, but I feel like it's too late. I feel like last year, and I had warned everybody that 45 was vetting thousands of people to install when he became president. And that's what he's been doing. Nobody listened. And I feel like everybody says, oh, if we get rid of him, it'll be okay. No, this is not a snake with one head. This is a Medusa with a bunch of heads. And how do you get rid of all that? How do we stop that? Because even if one went, we still have all the other people that were installed. You know what I'm saying? All his cabinet, they're all freaking criminals in one sort of sense. And they don't care for the rule of law, the party that says they're for the rule of law. But how do we stop that? Do you really think protesting in the streets is going to stop that? I mean, honestly, I love it. I love seeing it. But like I said, our government right now, our administration is like a Medusa with 50 million heads. So to cut off that snake, how is this possible?
So it's the okay, and I want to bring up Amy Dawn in just a second, Susie. So this is where we're at, right? So I know it may feel futile and it may feel like we're helpless, but the alternative is doing nothing. Right? That's the alternative. That's my concern for so many people who feel, apathetic and overwhelmed, and that's by design. Steve Bannon came out a few weeks ago and talked about the muzzle velocity of misinformation, disinformation. They're going to throw so much shit up against the walls that people are going to get exhausted. So what you're feeling is exactly what they wanted to have happen. So the question for you, right? I'm going to say this from my position of privilege as a cis white hetero man in America. I can go anywhere. I will survive this because cis white hetero men have always survived these kinds of things. But as a member of a community who's feeling impacted, marginalized in a way, you've got to find a way to do something. Protect your peace.
I am.
I know you are. This is a message for everybody who's listening too. It's about finding something that you can do, right?
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, I do. It's just when you're alone, like I said, he doesn't care about. He doesn't care. He's not going to follow orders. And this whole thing about a constitutional crisis, and people are deciding, well, are we in it? Are we not in it? We've been in it. We've been in it for a while now, and I just don't know why. Like, people are so emboldened to him, and they say that, you know, they're being threatened and all that, and their families are being threatened. But I don't know. Is that like true?
Yes.
Or is it money?
Well, again,
All of the above.
All of the above, and I would say to you, it's I know it's easy to say this, but I think in your case, I think it would be a benefit to you to ignore him and focus on you, meaning that there's lots of people that are going to provide this information out there, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to break these things down. It's important to be involved and to be in the know, but what they're doing to you is by design. So don't let them win. More self-care for you. More finding time to do the things that you enjoy. Like, what are those things? Like, what's your favorite hobby? I'll ask you that question. What's your favorite hobby?
Right now, I don't really have. This is my hobby, politics,
Okay.
do
you read? Do you like music? Do you like to garden? What are those things?
No, I do all that. I do all that I just naturally do all that. But my thing is I like to get involved. There's a group called No Small Act. I don't know if you've heard it. It's
yes. No Small Act. Right.
I joined that, but I'm having a little difficulty on the tech end, trying to get into the Zooms and stuff like that.
Sure.
But that is like I'd love to be on one end. I'd love to be a representative because they take representatives for every county in the United States, and I haven't seen one from my state, so I volunteered. But on the other end, I'm also afraid of like, because you put yourself out there, like somebody could take me out easily. I have nobody to come find me. You know what I mean? And that scares me. So there's a few things stopping me, you know.
Hi, Susie.
I don't know how to get past that. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Yep.
I'm really glad you found us. Thanks for bringing me up, Steve. And I'm so glad you found us because it sounds like you could use some community. So, you know, we around here take people in. You know, we call it your gum on the shoe now. You know, we are all in the same boat. I am a mental health therapist, so, and I just want to let you know you're not alone. Obviously, you feel pretty alone, and it's overwhelming. And what Steve said about, I love that you went there, Steve, same brain. Literally, that's the thing that you have to do because you're so passionate, because you're wanting to do the things. That's what keeps you wanting to focus on it. And I get it, right? But you gotta also. I heard you say when he was bringing up the hobbies, you're like, oh, I do all that. Like, those things aren't important. Those things are critical for you right now. The things that you do to swing out of the overwhelm of all this, to keep yourself centered and in the here and now, are going to be critical for you to keep your batteries charged so you can swing back in and keep fighting, right? We talk a lot, and I'm glad you're here. Please follow. Please join our Discord. Please stick around in this community because we talk a lot about in this community about how to keep your batteries charged so you can stay charged to keep fighting for what you care so much about, which is clearly everything that we all care about here.
I
So
say something? So
sure.
sometimes I kid. Sometimes I literally have had debates with people, in my life about, because I care too much. I mean, I've had a lot of bad things happen to me in my life, but I've also had a lot of good things. But the bad things have it kind of, I think, swayed me towards being really empathetic towards people. And so it just it hurts my heart that we're in this
It does.
and I say to myself, what makes us so special that what happened to other countries won't happen to us? What makes us so special? Well, we're really, we're not, but we are, because we kind of we had everything. We had almost everything. You know what I'm saying? And people just took it all for granted. And now all the people that fought, all the families, all the people that died for all the rights that we have, everything that we have. I mean, I'm a very appreciative person. I like, wherever I go, I look at everything really, and I always think to myself how lucky we are, like how lucky I can just go down to the store and nothing happens to me. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and that right there, Susie, that right there is what helps you focus on the things that'll keep you charged up to keep fighting for what you care about so much. And I bring this up a lot in this space, and people have heard me say it before because I love Brene Brown, and one of the things she did in studying what she does about human behavior is she did a study and found that people who were the most compassionate people were also the people that set the best boundaries for themselves. You got to know your limits, my friend. We all get overwhelmed. And to what Steve was saying, the overwhelm of all of it is the point, because if they keep you in an emotional state, then they keep you in a place where you will give up. And so to do the things that give you joy, one of the things we also say in this space a lot is joy is an act of resistance. You have to find the joy so that you can keep up the fight. And so that being said, I know that you found the community you need to find your joy, because we have a lot of joy in this space too. We talk about a lot of heavy things, but we also have joy. We have fun. We get together. We talk. We laugh, and then we fight. And we go in and we go out. And that's, and let me tell you, my clients are feeling very similarly to you. There's not a one of, and my family and my friends, like in every space that I talk to people, that's the best thing I can offer is don't forget to find the joy, because the joy is what's going to keep your batteries charged to do the thing that you want to do, which is use that compassionate heart to fight the fight that you care about. And so you found your people, Susie, you found your people. And I know Steve would agree.
Yeah. And before I bring up Victoria, Susie, I want to, this thought popped into my head. I had to clear it with our mod team. I'd like to invite you to become a mod for our group here, because the reason I suggest that is because it may give you a purpose, right? It maybe give you something that, it may not work for you based on schedules, but I'm going to have my mod team reach out to you and invite you to join our Discord. And that may be something you decide you want to do, because, we all have roles to play in this hellscape that we're in. So I would like to extend that offer to you if that's something you might be interested in.
That's awesome. I don't know how to. I'm an admin for a group, for a singer, but I don't know how to do mod. I don't know all that.
We can teach you, Susie. If we can teach Steve how to use Discord, we can teach you. Dang it!
Agreed.
Good point. That's a really, really good point. So I know.
Yeah,
Victoria
I love that idea.
Okay.
Oh my God, that's so great.
I'm glad to hear you say that. So you'll be reached out by probably every one of our mods to try to help you navigate through that. The first thing would be to get you into Discord. Don't worry, we have an extensive training program that I've never completed. Sorry, but we can certainly help navigate that. So again, I want to extend that offer to you, and I hope you take me up on it.
Okay.
Steve, you can drop me down so Victoria can take over, and I know she's going to say some amazing things. Hello, good morning, love.
Morning, beautiful.
Thank you, AD.
Good morning.
I appreciate
Good morning.
Love you.
Thank you.
So
Hi, guys. Susie, thank you for trusting us. Thank you for coming up and saying these things. I know it's really hard right now. I don't know if you're new to this space. I'm Victoria Broderick. I'm running for Congress in Tennessee's District 4. I've become friends with this lovely man here who I call Silver Facts.
I know, huh?
And I wanted to come up here and talk about this because I hear what you're saying. I too was screaming at the void in 2016, being like, this is a problem. This is going to be so bad, blah, blah, blah. And I want to speak to that a little bit. And I also want to speak to this community of 700 people and how we can help support people like you, Susie, because you don't have community where you are, like, or you don't feel like you do. And a big part of that is because we don't stand up. Like, we don't wear our we don't wear our I'm a Democrat or I'm a progressive on our sleeves and show it every single day. And that's part of the problem. Like, you might see a pride flag here and there. You might see, someone Black Lives Matter. Like, you might see that, but it's not the norm. And I think a big part of that, and for our community here, we need to be bold. And I say that to also say this. If you don't think I'm scared when I go out and I put my Have the Day You Deserve shirt on, or I have my Pride shirt on, or I do the thing, or even when I'm just on here screaming at MAGA at the top of my lungs and saying some out-of-pocket things to them, that's not the case. I am scared. There are days where I worry about my family safety. I worry about everyone in my community. But I know that the alternative is if I can empower one person to stand up, that's enough for me. If I can empower one person to say, I want to do better and I want to do more, that's enough for me. We all know that our Black, Brown, and Indigenous brothers and sisters have been screaming this for years now. We all know that they've been telling us that this is the consequence of our own actions. And my first act of defiance, my first act of that was being more bold and being more open and showing that I'm here. And it's scary some days. Some days I'm a fucking ball of like nerves. Steve can attest to this. But it doesn't change the fact that it feels better being the person and being empowered to stand up than it does the other way. So I hope this community can take this in, like what I'm saying, and take it into your daily lives. Just one act can show someone in your community that you're happier. I wore a Burn the Patriarchy shirt down, and I forgot that I even had it on. I was nervous wearing it out in my city. And then I went into a coffee shop and someone stopped me to say they loved my shirt. And I had to think about what I was wearing because I didn't think about it. But I made them know that I was a safer place. Not a safe place, but a safer place. That there's someone out there fighting for them. They have no idea what I'm doing, no idea my name. But here I am wearing that. We can all do this. We can do this together. We can make this happen together. But it's going to take all of us. And I hope you can find that in this community, because I found it in this community. On days where I'm feeling horrible, I've got Steve. If I've got an community of people that are here to support me, and I think you'll find that here. That's one thing that I love about our community and the communities I found here, is that we are listening. We have been screaming at the top of our rooftop, and take joy in that. Take joy that we're making MAGA's life fucking harder. They hate it. They hate it so hard when we're happy that they're upset. Like, they don't like it. And you know what? If that's what gets me through the day, I'm going to take it as a win, because I'm petty and I like the idea that I'm making their lives harder, and I'm making them less comfortable and being openly bigoted, openly racist, openly transphobic. And those things help me just keep doing the thing.
Can I ask a question?
Susie, 1 second. I'll let you know this. I just want to point this out before I miss it. Miss M said it correctly in the chat. We are not on the wrong side of history. Don't ever forget that. Okay.
Right.
So what we're going to say?
I know that.
What was your question?
The thing about like family. Okay, I have 3 grown children, 38 to 23, 23 to 38. and my oldest, my two oldest were not speaking because they've disrespected me and whatever. But I have been trying to, because of all the stuff that's been happening, I have been trying. They're also like one of my daughter and her fiance, he's a wicked Musk fan, like loves Elon Musk. How do you, and then my middle child, the other one, is in with them and all that, but they're my children. How do you get through the family about like I'm at a thing is like whatever's going on and why we're not talking, the more thing that is more important is shit is hitting the fan. Do you want to never speak to each other again? Like how do you deal with family that's on the other side? I found it very hard.
So my grandmother and I had the closest bond, especially as a child. And my grandmother is MAGA. My grandmother, and I'm not surprised she's MAGA. Let's be very clear here. Our family history is a sinister one. And I know that she was on that path and she's not deconstructed. She's not done any of those things. Do I keep contact with her? Yeah, I do. But I keep her much more at arm's length. And after this past election, it became very easy for me to be like, you know what? You've made the wrong fucking decision. You've made the bad decision. You're going to negatively affect myself, my family. And I do chip away at it. I don't let them get away. They're, to the point that she won't talk about anything. She won't bring up race. She won't bring up politics. She will not cross those lines because I have made it very fucking clear that I'm not going to entertain it. I'm going to call her a racist. I'm going to call her transphobic. I'm going to call her misogynistic or internalized misogyny. And I'm going to call those things out. So consequently, she doesn't. And I am chipping away at it because she realized that having 5 grandchildren who are children of immigrants could negatively affect her family. It's going to be your best decision. Yeah. Like, you have to make the best decision for your family. I'm not going to say it's easy because, like, I love my grandmother, but I'm fucking over it.
I think part of that, and I just want to jump in real quick, Victoria. I think part of that is like oftentimes the people that are up here, defending marginalized communities, people that are advocating 10 toes down for human rights for all and protections for marginalized communities, those that are under assault, especially when the family dynamic is involved. I think it's really, really important that you remember that you're not obligated to reach across the aisle, so to speak. You're the one that's on the correct side of history. And we can this conversation can go a million different directions. And I want to sort of end it here just to say this. You have your moral compass pointing in the right direction. It sounds like it from talking to you. I know you're going to get reached out by members of our community and the like. And I respect that and I appreciate that. And I don't want you to ever forget it. Now, there's different communication techniques that people can use, and we can have those conversations all day. But I just need you to know this, that you found a safe space here. Again, I can't say it's safe. I'll just let other people say that it is. I'll take my flowers in that regard. But you're going to be reached out. You're going to be inundated by direct messages from our mod team, in particular, members of our community, so that you can be part of something, right? And the advice that I would like to leave you with is this, Izzy. You are not obligated to try to repair these relationships. You're just not. I think this would go to everybody. You're just not. Now, the family, like I said earlier, the family side of it is challenging and complicated. And I know that there may be this desire. We're not getting any younger. We don't want to see people part of our lives and part of our families. We don't want to not be in contact, but to what end? Why should you have to go through that? So I really am grateful that you found us, Susie. I'm really glad that you're here. And like I said, if you want to take us up on the offer, become part of our mod family, we would love to have you.
Thank you. One last thing.
Sure.
I am I'm the type of person though that in my life, because of bad shit that's happened to me, I am not a tolerant person of disrespect and all that. However, your children are different, and these are girls, and that's why and like I have an autistic grandson and I have a granddaughter, so I'm not just fighting for everybody. Like they're in jeopardy. You know what I'm saying? They're like literally in jeopardy, and I don't know why.
You just have to chip away at it. Like I mean, if your choice is, and there's no judgment, no, this is not spoken from a place of judgment. If you're keeping in contact, just tip away. All you have to do, because they're going to realize, women realize every single day I learn something new about the patriarchy and internalized misogyny and internalized racism. And I think that it's really, really important to just remember that. And, you know, not every path is going to be walked the same.
We got you, Susie. We got you. I appreciate you finding us, and thank you for being here, and welcome to our family, so to speak. And like we said earlier, you're now gum on our shoe.
Mm-hmm. You're stuck with us.
Lovely.
I appreciate you. Thank you, Susie.
Bye, Susie.
Talk to you later. Hello, Victoria. How
Good
you doing?
morning.
How's it going?
I'm just here. I'm living the dream, and nightmares are dreams too. So
I always say it's living the dream. It's somebody else's dream, sadly.
Yeah.
I just to kind of close on that whole particular piece. I think this is emblematic of what a lot of people are feeling right now, and we've had this conversation in different contexts before about obligation, familial obligation, right? And I know I can't speak to that because I don't have brothers and sisters. My parents are both deceased. My cousins, they're all over the place. I don't even have many left, so I don't have that same weight on my shoulders that a lot of other people do. And I would never judge or make assumptions that someone's going to handle it a particular way. But I don't think I don't think we're the ones that need to extend a hand, quite frankly, because we're the ones that are defending the rights of others. And if they can't accept that, then they can't accept it. That's just the reality.
Yeah. And I agree. And I want to say, like, for everyone who's here, everyone who's listening, do something to show that there are more of us. Because like I said, there's not a lot of, I hear it all the time. I didn't know Democrats lived in this area. I didn't know that. And it's because we're not loud and proud. MAGA is great at being wrong and proud. We are not loud and proud. We're on the right side of history here. Be bold. Do the thing. Wear the shirt. Say, have the day you deserve. Be out there, because it makes people like Susie have a safe space, even if they don't know they need it. Because I get it all the time when I'm out there. Just show it. Bullies don't like power, and MAGA, they're just bullies. And how do you teach a bully other than show them that you're strong? That's it. Even if you're fake it until you make it. Look, I walk around this app saying out of pocket shit. Some days I have imposter syndrome, and that's for me. Other people's opinions of you is none of your business. If someone gets it, it's really hard to hate up front too. Like, it is really hard to hate up front. I want to add that part. It is hard to hate up front. So when you're out in public and you're wearing your shirt, your Kamala Harris shirt, because you want to show that you're proud, you want to show your thing, they are going to have a hard time. And you've learned enough on this app how to shut them down. You listen to Steve every day. You listen to USMC Angry Veteran. You hear us every day. You can shut it down. You can stop them. And 9 times out of 10, they're not going to come for you. They're not going to be screaming in your faces. They're going to roll their eyes and walk away, and you've just ruined their entire fucking day. And you should love that for yourself.
I agree. Sadly, friends, I need to wrap. I'm just feeling like crap, and it's going downhill. So, Victoria, as is the case, anybody who's left on the panel, what would you like to say in final words? Unless that was your close.
That was my close. I love you.
Love you too.
I hope you feel better.
Thank you, friend. I appreciate you very much. I'm sorry about this, guys, but just not feeling so hot, and I'm starting to get a little blurry vision, so that's not good. We're gonna raid Zeus. Everybody go say hi to our friend Zeus. We'll be back here tomorrow morning, 8:00. Illness permitting. Tomorrow we're gonna focus on small businesses. So if you have a small business. Excuse me, sorry. If you have a small business and you'd like to come up and talk about it, or if you know someone does, or if you've had small businesses in the past, I want to turn this into a 4-hour free advertisement for people who are out there doing the work, because I'll have some data and some stats about what small business means to the American economy and why tax cuts for the rich do not benefit growth. We know that. So again, thank you all. Sorry to have to end things short today. Love you, mods. Love you, everybody. Thank you, Victoria. And then we're going to go raid our